Match 48 then, with the Gujarat Titans and the Punjab Kings, two teams that lit up the IPL when they met in the reverse fixture. We had Rahul Tewatia against Oden Smith. That became a story for generations to come now in the IPL. As it turns out, Oden Smith doesn't survive the return fixture. Tewatia has only gotten better, and so too have the Titans. They sit high and pretty at the top of the table in the IPL. And on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 95G. We will talk about a Punjab Kings side that have got half the points that the Titans do, and that surely cannot afford to drop any more points. It's a very good evening to Daniel Vettori. Are we all set for this one? I hope we have something new to discuss, because we'd like for something other than Tewatia and Gujarat finding ways to win from losing games, and Punjab having a good team and not necessarily getting the results. Are we going to have something different today, like we did yesterday with KKR breaking a streak?
I'm happy to talk about Tewatia. He's my favourite player now. I think the legend had started a little while back in I think Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, or maybe one season ago, but it was only embellished by his performances in that game, and he's continued to perform so well. So, look, I think both, obviously Gujarat are in the form of their lives. They've won games, no one expects them to win. So, in a lot of ways, they can afford to lose a game, but they'll want to continue to play in the style that they've been playing. And I think it's mainly down to a strong bowling attack. We talk about Hardik, even though he's fallen off a little bit in the last couple of games, and then that Miller, Tewatia, and Rashid Khan as well, to give him some credit, his performances at the back end with the bat. But Punjab are the real story. They need to get themselves up off the floor, because they have a good enough team to push for those semis.
I mean, if I still can't possibly digest this. If you would have said pre-IPL, after 48 games, that Punjab Kings team would, with all the success they had and the kind of compliments they were getting after the auction, would find themselves struggling to make the playoffs, and Gujarat Titans would be in a state that no IPL team has been before. 8 wins out of 9. It's a very good evening to Aakash Chopra. He likes to forecast so much in the IPL and cricket, and most of his predictions are spot on and bang on. Now, be honest with me and tell me about the Gujarat Titans, because let me tell you this, Dad. Aakash is the one who gave me these wise words back in 2018 when Chennai won. He said, you don't need to be the best team to win the IPL. You don't need to look like the best team on paper. I remember those words till date. Gujarat Titans epitomize those, Aakash.
Absolutely, and I'll put my hand up and say that I did not pick them as one of my top 4. In fact, I thought they were rather ordinary at the auctions. I may have actually used the word poor as well, loosely, and I felt they have a good bowling lineup. I still feel, even after those 8 victories, that they do not have the batting. So their batting is definitely light. There is Shubman Gill at the top. There is Hardik Pandya in the middle. Rest are punching above their weight. Not that David Miller has not done this before, but the last time when he did it was about 5 years ago. Rahul Tewatia is capable of doing this once in a while, maybe twice a season, or that's what we have seen so far. Of course, he's rewriting those scripts every single time, and he's been sensational. Rashid Khan is batting at 7. Yes, he can bat at 7, but if he's your number 7, that means that there is an apparent lack of batting depth. Who's their number 3? You and I and Dan put together don't know. It could be Sai Sudarshan. If I were to ask you a question, who batted at 3 throughout for them, you may not have the answer, because Sai Sudarshan, Abhinav Manohar, Vijay Shankar, Hardik Pandya, everybody has batted at 3. Now, with any other team, we would have been currently criticizing. Their openers have changed. They started with Wade, they went to Saha. Number 3 is still unreliable, but they are finding ways to win, and that's what matters in the end. So, yes, I don't know much about the IPL and Gujarat Titans.
You know, you make such good points, Aakash, because in spite of where they stand, we are having this thought and feeling. So I wonder if a franchise ever feels that they are winning. Not only are they winning, they're sitting high and pretty and high and mighty against all the other teams, but their batting doesn't look strong. Now, at what point in the season does that stop becoming an issue? Because you're 16 points, 8 wins out of 9.
Well, first of all, next time I coach a team, I'm going to use Aakash's line as a motivation. We don't have to be the best team. That's going to be my starting point. So then, because it seems to work. And you could, I mean, it's unfair on Gujarat to say that about them when they're top of the table, but Aakash is right. Their batting does feel light. They haven't got the performances from Shubman Gill in the last 3 to 4 to 5 games, and that middle order wasn't expected to do what it's done, albeit they're good players. I think we anticipated a good bowling lineup, but this batting lineup has exceeded expectations, which is a testament to them as their group dynamic and what they're doing in the background, that they've built that confidence that they can win from any situation. So rather than dismiss that, you're trying to embellish it and say how good a feeling this is. Let's try and carry it on as long as we can.
They're winning tosses and they're doing things differently. Hardik Pandya was the first captain to win a toss in the IPL and bat first. That was followed suit by Faf du Plessis, and we've also seen more captains then take that route. But we now have Hardik Pandya wanting to continue to bat first. We're back at the D.Y. Patil Stadium for this one. And unchanged lineups for both teams. Again, as those lineups come up, if you have not watched 48 games in the IPL and you were told one of these teams with a batting of Ridhiman Shah, Shubman Gill, Sudarshan, Hardik Pandya, followed by Miller, Tewatia, Rashid Khan, versus you've got Mayank Agarwal, Shikhar Dhawan, Johnny Bairstow, Liam Livingstone, Bhanuka Rajapaksha, who started well. If you had to pick which team was top and which team was later, you probably wouldn't get the answer right. But the Titans are in a place of their own. So no changes for either team. What is the decision to bat first tell us, Aakash, as we're seeing that be more of a pattern? We're seeing teams win more. Now, is that down to D.Y. Patil? Is that down to Titans feeling better when they bat first, as we look at the numbers of the toss impact at the D.Y. Patil Stadium?
And not just that, actually, this just tells you a story that, okay, win the toss, bat first, and then there's hardly to choose between the two. Batting first has won 6 times, batting second has won 8 times. But my thing is, I've got a little detailing on my phone, and that's why I'm just looking down at this, because this is a different pitch. See, every pitch at a particular venue provides a different kind of contest, and it's important to not just look at the venue. Look at the surface at which they are playing, because Wankhede Stadium, where people could not chase total down, that is one pitch in that entire square, and the remaining pitches are actually producing 200 plus encounters. So in this, rather on this surface earlier, there was a KKR RCB game where RCB chased down 132 with 7 wickets down. They won that game by the skin of their teeth. That was long back, of course.
Yes.
Then I see an RCB game versus LSG. 181 was what RCB scored first, and LSG could not chase it down. They lost that game, and they had 2 wickets in hand, 163 for 8. So this is a surface. I think this is where the credit is due. When you look at Hardik Pandya winning the toss and batting first in the afternoon game, Hardik Pandya winning the toss and batting first here as well, it may not be the right thing in the end, God knows, but the fact is they have done their due diligence, they know this surface, they have done their homework, and they feel that, you can defend totals here with their bowling, perhaps, yes. So on this surface, batting first might not that be a bad thing.
All right, interesting that. At what point does a successful franchise automatically look like the team that's reading pitches better? Or is there an element of luck there?
Potentially, because I think the way you're playing can deal with any surface conditions. But Aakash makes a really good point that, and I think teams are moving away from ground analysis to moving towards pitch analysis. So they're actually diving a little bit deeper into most grounds have 3 to 4 pitches. If you go to England, they might have 7, 8, 9 that they actually utilise, and there can be a variation between each surface. So we talk about the average score at Wankhede or Brabourne is this, but the average score on a pitch is this. And so that actually gives some more information to the decision makers. But probably in the end, I think Gujarat are getting to the stage now where they're actually backing their ability to read a pitch, and that was the reason that they batted first. I think 3 or 4 games ago, they were the first team to break that cycle, and they're trying to break the tradition of win the toss and bowl because they're confident, because they're backing their ability to assess a pitch on its merits rather than look at the holistic view of, well, this is what happens at a ground venue, where we're actually dealing with the moment and what's going to happen today.
Okay. Well, this is a team that's, whatever they've done, whether they've batted first, been forced to chase, they seem to have gotten on the right side of it. So there's a lot less that Titans need to worry about. Hardik Pandya even saying in the toss that he doesn't even need to rush himself as a bowler because of the luxury they enjoy at the points table. Punjab Kings don't enjoy such luxuries. They need to pick up some points. They are now stuck on 8 along with the Knight Riders, along with the Capitals, in what could be a bit of a dogfight for 1 playoff spot, maybe 2, but it looks like the Rajasthan Royals have some distance over the rest. So these are all teams that are fighting for possibly 1 playoff spot. And the Punjab Kings, well, you look back at the reverse fixture, it actually tells a story as to why their 11s seem to have changed, because this was a game where Punjab got to 189 and they got there with the hard-hitting Liam Livingstone. Again, they went big, that high-risk, high-reward strategy. Eventually, Rashid Khan struck twice to dismiss Livingston and more recognised batters to leave them short of 200, a score which eventually would be within range for Rahul Tewatia against Oden Smith, even though it came out to a ridiculous 12 of 2, which Tewatia managed. And Shubman Gill, in fairness, put them in a position where they should have won that game. Now, Punjab since then have left Rajapaksa out, have brought him back, and we discussed in the last game after Lucknow, after they went down to Lucknow, that they're still possibly identifying their best 11. Aakash, they've not made changes, and Dan makes the point that they brought back Rajapaksa, but Rajapaksa is not playing like the Rajapaksa he played in the first few games. Now, is this the best looking Punjab Kings team for you?
See, there is a radical thought. Of course, so when you look at the batting lineup, who can they replace? If Bhanuka, actually, if this is the lineup and if he's batting at 5, I won't play Bhanuka. Due respect to him, he's a fab player. He's done well. I'll actually toy with the idea of getting Shah Rukh Khan back, because that is the primary reason that he was picked. I will also think of Harpreet Brar. Because if you are playing on these surfaces, slowish surfaces, now it's in the second half of the tournament, May, tired pitches, spinners having a bigger role to play, not a lot of dew, barring a couple of games here and there. So why not him? Because he can also bat. Rishi Dhawan is giving you that medium pace kind of option, but is he the best option? And is Bhanuka the best option? So on that number, it is. I totally agree with Dan that. See if you and there are plenty of people who are batting off position. Johnny Bairstow is at his best when he's opening. Bhanuka Rajapaksa perhaps is best when he's actually opening. And then you can't allow them to do that, and you can't push Liam Livingston further down, right? He's at his best when you put him at 3 or 4. So everybody can't bat in the top 4. So might as well pick people who are suited to bat in the top 4, irrespective of the kind of skill sets that they have and the power that they have at different numbers, but you ask them to play a different role.
Yeah, that's the point we've sort of made, and Dan Vettori's call for Benny Howell seems to have gone unanswered. You think he could have brought some balance, but you share that sentiment now. There are too many batters of a similar sort of type that are resulting in quite a few people batting out of position.
I think so, and I think Aakash is getting to the same conclusion around finding that all-rounder spot, because I'm more looking at the bowling as well. I think they brought Rishi Dhawan in to offer that balance, but I'm not sure they really trust him as a bowler. And you look at Mayank trying to manage his bowling unit. He obviously trusts Rabada, Rahul Chahar, Arshdeep Singh at the back end, but then he's trying to manufacture those other 8 overs, and he's got Livingston there in the background. But the likes of Benny Howe, you can trust him with the 4 overs, particularly on these sorts of conditions where the surface is starting to wane a little bit, and his variations can be so effective. And I believe that he could be the balance. And he obviously gives the batting. And to the point that you're making around Rajapaksa, where's he going to bat? I mean, you don't want to leave Liam Livingston too late. And I think that's what we've seen, that he's listed at 4, but he needs to come in at a certain time. And Johnny Bairstow has to bat in the top 3 to be his most effective. So unless Rajapaksa's batting like he did in those first few games where he came in 33 off 9 balls or whatever it was, then it seems too much of a luxury to have those 5 very, very good batsmen almost cluttering your top order. And it seems strange to say because they all are class players, but I think, as most teams, are always searching for balance. And it just feels like Kings 11 are searching for that. Sorry, Kings, not Kings 11.
Yeah, it's all right. They're still trying to find their 11. It doesn't matter what happens. But Mayank Agarwal has said that he's been unlucky with tosses. He's lost 8 out of 10, which is true. Today is a day where he says he would have bowled anyway, so that's somewhat negated. Now, he's got the luck factor going. This is also, I think, the first time since they've gone back to this heavy batting 11 that they will be chasing, so that perhaps plays well for him. But Mayank Agarwal is perhaps a different conversation because the batter hasn't shown up in this year's IPL like he has for previous years, for the Punjab Kings, for the Kings 11, whatever you want to call them. Mayank was a revelation. And in the league since 2019, just look at some of his numbers. The strike rate is impressive. In 2022, that's dipped. He's gone to 129. The average has dipped too. And you'd find that perhaps even leveling in their power play numbers. If we look at the last few games, Mayank Agarwal's got 1 good innings this IPL against the Mumbai Indians, got a quick fire 50. But if you look at their batting power play numbers, their run rate is down to 7.4 from the first 5 matches where it was over 10. We're talking about Shikhar Dhawan and Mayank Agarwal, Dan, who are 2 of the IPL's most prolific run getters, high impact players the last few years. How much of this is just down to Mayank and the captaincy?
I hate to blame the captaincy, but sometimes batsmen overthink the captaincy as well, and they put themselves in the situation that I've got to play a captain's innings. I've got to get the team through this certain situation. I've talked at the team meetings around style of play, and this is what we want to do. This is where we want to be. And Mayank, to his credit, is probably trying to live that, and it's difficult for him because he's a free-flowing batsman. And I think, in a lot of ways, like we talked about Kohli, is how do you get yourself out of this funk? And I think it is purely around being aggressive. Shikhar Dhawan can play the anchor role. Johnny Bairstow can play it if required. But Mayank at his best, I'd like to see him being aggressive. I thought in the last game, bowlers attacked him with a short ball, and I think that has been a tactic way back to when he first sort of started playing IPL early on. Let's go short to him, be aggressive, particularly straight at him, and that may be some of the reason that he didn't perform. But ultimately, Mayank attacking is what everyone wants to see.
The curse of the Punjab captaincy, Aakash, whoever becomes captain, suddenly the strike rate drops. I mean, come on, Rahul still averaged in the high numbers, was an orange cap contender throughout. What's happened with Mayank here? How much of his lack of runs has contributed to where Punjab find themselves?
See, again, it's a tough one. Of course, responsibility, but then you're not a captain when you're a batter. Or when you walk out to bat, you're not a captain anymore. You just go out as a batter and you try and do the best that you can do. And in all fairness, sometimes you're actually also due for a bad season. It just happened. We've seen like quality players, Rohit Sharma having a bad season, Virat Kohli having a bad season. Mayank hasn't had a bad season for a while. In fact, he was striking better than his partner KL Rahul. This just coincided at the wrong time. He got an injury in between as well. He got a few starts, but just couldn't carry on. And the last game was a prime example where he actually had like quick fire 25-30, where Shikhar was hardly going at runner ball. And then just hits it straight to KL Rahul of Dushmanta Chamira and just out for 28. So things can go wrong. See, T20 is a bad format in respect of regaining form. So if you try and regain form, you end up hurting your team. So you don't want to go down that path. Mayank Agarwal, there's one thing that's admirable, and I hope that he doesn't take that away from his game and his philosophy that as a T20 opener, I need to maximize the power play overs. I need to be the aggressor. You can play the role of an anchor and perhaps accumulate 40-50 runs, get back to some kind of form, but that's not Mayank. Mayank is going to go after the bowlers. Yes, it's not worked out so far, but then why die wondering? He's going to, if he's going to die, he's going to die smashing. It may actually is not keeping him in a great spot as a captain, batter, respect, and all of that. But that's Mayank Agarwal. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that we'd agree with. But I'm trying to think of, Aakash makes the point of how when someone's batting, they're not captain. But how do you convince them that? Surely somewhere it still weighs on them even when they're batting, fair to say?
Absolutely, and I think that's why inexperienced captains go through this stage. And so it will take Mayank a little while to actually work through that and understand that his batting is the best way he can lead. And we think of the great batsmen around the world who are captains as well. They normally led from a batting front, and that allowed them to potentially be better captains. But there's actually, I think, Aakash made a really good point there around the IPL is not the place to regain form. And a batsman who's trying to regain form strikes at 90 or 100 and tries to get themselves to a point so that they can be better for the back half of the tournament. But that doesn't help the team in the situation. What helps the team is 10 off 4 or a quick score that actually allows the team to function rather than everything being about the individual at that point. So the IPL is definitely not a time to regain form. The reality is you have to play for the team, and that I believe has been aggressive.
Okay, well, we'll see if there's a different Mayank Agarwal today. Perhaps helps if he'll have a target in mind, as the Punjab Kings will be chasing. The Titans, of course, if you just joined us, are going to be batting first. Wonder if you just go through that team. There's so much international quality, and we don't often talk about Kagiso Rabada. We'll talk to him in a minute. But the Gujarat 11 is pretty much the same. I must go to Aakash, who will tell me a little more about how Pradeep Sangwan looks exactly the same as he did, say, 15, 20 years back. And he keeps his place. I don't know if Yash Dayal is fit or not, but what, is this just a thing of the team that's on top, Aakash, that whoever comes in will put in a performance? Even if Yash Dayal goes out and Sangwan comes in, he puts in a brilliant performance after being in the hiatus for God knows how many years?
That's true, actually. In fact, this is a wonderful story, right? That Delhi had the first draft pick in 2008. They had the choice to pick Kohli. They went for Pradeep Sangwan. RCB went for Kohli, and rest, as they say, is history. But Pradeep Sangwan has started leading the Delhi side. So he's been the Delhi captain in the domestic circuit. He did okay in the white ball circuit recently, and Ashish Nehra is from Delhi, right? So he understands. He's a left-arm pacer. He's seen Prithvi Sangwan from close quarters. Therefore, actually, Yash Dayal as well. Just the affinity with the left-arm pacers and understanding them a little better, maybe. And once you're a part of a successful team, Dan, I'm pretty sure will agree. Everybody, there's something about a successful team. Nothing succeeds like success. Suddenly you think that you're better than what you are, and you actually end up performing that way as well. I experienced that with a few teams that everybody had written them off, but Rajasthan comes to my mind. First class couple of seasons where everybody and the same players were not performing well earlier. They didn't perform well afterwards, but those couple of dream seasons, everybody chipped in with a performance when they were required to. So Pradeep Sangwan, another story to admire. Don't be surprised if Sai Sudarshan actually puts in a 50 today, and you'll say, okay, where was this kid all this while, and why Vijay Shankar was playing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Where were these left-arm seamers in the last few years of your RCB time when Ashish Nehra was with you? He wasn't finding them then. You were putting poor Corey Anderson to bowl to MS Dhoni at one point, if I remember correctly.
Well, I think the year before we had Aniket Chowdhury, who did pretty well for us. So there's one.
That's it. The Chinnaswamy Stadium just sent all of them running away.
No, Ashish couldn't do anything at Chinnaswamy. I mean, the Chinnaswamy just rolls up bowlers and buries them.
Simple as that. Here we are in Mumbai now, and we seem to be seeing the best of so many left-arm seamers. It's a great story, recurring theme. So Mohsin Khan last night. We've seen quite a few left-arm seamers make a mark. We're watching Kagiso Rabada in action, though, and we must focus on the pedigree of Rabada, which somehow doesn't always necessarily translate into the kind of performance in the IPL. I'm just trying to think of whether Rabada can be a personality that a young captain can look at, whether he can be a leader of the bowlers, a bowling captain of sorts. Sometimes you look at Rabada, Dan, you look at his numbers too. He looked great in an all-round strong attack at the Delhi Capitals. Somehow he seems to just go hot and cold, doesn't quite have the impact that you think a bowler Rabada's pedigree should have, fair to say?
Well, he's always a wicket taker, and those numbers prove that out. And I think he's asked to bowl in some incredibly tough situations, albeit that he is one of the premier fast bowlers in world cricket. So we see Pat Cummins sitting on the bench, so it can happen to international bowlers when they come over, but he is a wicket taker, and that's how Kings have used him this year. They've used him sort of up front, and then obviously the death with Arshdeep Singh. So I still believe he can be a leader of the bowling attack. The thing that makes him look at his best when he was with Delhi is that he had Nokia beside him, Avesh Khan. They were just they were just a three-pronged attack, and obviously they had spinners, Aakash Patel as well. So it was a complete attack, whereas you wouldn't say Kings is a complete attack. There's three bowlers that you can trust. Sandeep Sharma gives you something sometimes. Rishi Dhawan obviously is a fifth bowler. There's a stretch, and then Liam Livingstone comes in. So it feels like he has to pick up a huge workload for Kings to be successful.
Is he being used better? Because he's being used differently, Aakash, this season. More Rabada in the power play, which we didn't see for the Delhi Capitals. Is he having the sort of impact that you think he should be having for a new franchise?
Yes, quality operator. Once again, he comes up, turns up actually with good performances every single season, almost every single game, barring just the last season where eventually did not get retained. He could have been the first choice in terms of when you look at the bowlers. But Nokia was better last season as compared to Rabada, but he's back to his best, and that's what you expect from somebody like him. Currently, we're talking about say Jasprit Bumrah not having a great season. 2023 might just be a different story that he comes in and picks up a wicket in almost every crucial stage of the game. So Kagiso is bowling 2 overs in the power play overs. I think that makes a huge difference. Wickets tend to fall only in 2 places in a T20 game, Raunak, in the top 6, in the back 4. So if you are capable of bowling in those phases of the game, you can swing the ball early doors, and if you can actually nail your Yorkers and you've got enough variations towards the end, then you'll end up 9 out of 10 times with something in the wickets column. So he is doing that. At the same time, somebody like Arshdeep, I think, has been responsible for a few wickets at the death overs, because Arshdeep is not giving you anything. He's going at sevens. So if he's going at sevens, somebody else has to go for 12. So the moment you start attacking Rabada, he'll get a few more wickets. So Arshdeep quietly is playing a little tiny role in Kaiso Rabada's success in the death overs.
It's been a good season for Arshdeep Singh, not heavily among the wickets, but big impact bowling at the death. Has kept games alive for the Punjab Kings. He's got to try and keep this one alive, because it's 1 versus 8. If they don't pick up the points today, you seriously would think there are enough teams that might get more points than the Punjab Kings. So let's get a first-time score from Dan Vettori and Aakash Chopra. Right, Sandeep Sharma has new ball in hand. The Titans can't seem to do anything wrong. Rhythm Ansah is finding the middle more often than not suddenly. So what are the Titans likely to get?
Based on those 2 balls, the surface looks pretty good, so 175.
175. Aakash Chopra, give me a number.
Doesn't matter, Raunak. Whatever they score, they'll defend it, right?
Yes, it's the Titans. Come on, someone give me reason to believe that the Titans are not going to run away with this. It's going to be a boring IPL otherwise. So I want to think that the Punjab Kings can be the banana skin for
Just
this.
let them run away with a round robin, and then something may happen in the semis. But
Wow.
Tiwari is too good.
Yeah, it happens to teams from Gujarat, right? In the IPL, Gujarat Lions did that. Delhi, I think, have done that. So anyway, no, let's not get there. Let's not get there. We want to see if the Titans can put in this sort of consistency. But 175 is the sort of number looking at. Big thank you to Aakash Chopra and Daniel Vettori. More from them at halftime. Join us then on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by IQ 95G.